Coming up on the next edition of Power and Politics, a challenging week for former President Donald Trump as he deals with court decisions that cost him money and time on the campaign trail. Plus, Governor Ron DeSantis is back in the Sunshine State talking immigration and other hot-button issues. Hello and welcome to another edition of Power and Politics. I'm your host, Frank Cipolla. Power and Politics is a weekly, unbiased look at the top stories affecting Florida with a special emphasis on the thinking behind the decisions that affect our lives. We want to take a moment to say hello to our viewers watching as they do every week on stations in Miami, Jacksonville, Tampa, Orlando, and other markets around the state. I am joined today, as I am every week, by my co-host, Emmy Award-winning political psychologist, Dr. Bart Rossi. Doctor, welcome.
Great to be here, Frank.
All right. Former President Donald Trump starts the upcoming week looking at another possible verdict that could cost him money after he was found liable this past week in a defamation case and ordered to pay more than $83 million to former columnist E. Jean Carroll. Okay. Trump in the courtroom. You're a psychologist. He did a lot of things that maybe a defendant should not do. What's your take on all of that?
Well, two sides, Frank. First off, I think he probably promoted himself. You know, he's very good at being the authoritarian personality and promoting his own issues of himself. So he gets a lot of attention by being in the courtroom. The flip side of that, though, reminds me of something else entirely.
All right.
All right? When I was playing baseball, Frank, and I was up at bat with a pitcher who could throw a 90-some mile an hour fastball and he had a sharp curveball, I had no comfort zone. Mm-hmm. I had to perform and a lot of pressure. With Trump, I think he has no comfort zone going forward because of these jury decisions.
Well, what do you mean by comfort zone? He had a case, he lost.
I think that he's frustrated, he's agitated, and he has no place to go with his emotion because the jurors voted against him. They did not believe him. And now he has a psyche, a mental set, if you will, that says in so many ways, I have to deal with this. And the pressure is very uncomfortable for him.
And that's why you're the psychologist. I found it pretty amazing that, he storms out of court during the he storms out of court during the closing arguments is what I meant to say. And he's talking loud enough for the jury to hear him and so on and so forth. That's not the conduct, in my mind at least, I'm not the psychologist, of an adult facing a serious issue.
But remember, with Donald J. Trump, his first and foremost idea is to be the authoritarian personality, be the boss. And by storming out of court and by acting this way, he promotes himself as he wants to promote himself.
All right, we soon will have possibly a verdict in the fraud case. This one could cost him a significant amount of money. Not that $83.3 million is not a significant amount of money, but maybe 3 times as much, and would affect his real estate business in New York. How do you see this verdict coming down on the fraud case that's pending?
Well, the fraud case brings up a different psychology, Frank. It's the magnitude of the fraud. It's not, everybody may cheat on their taxes a little bit. We try to get away with things. But, in this case, it seems like the Trump organization went so far beyond the pale of reason that this is why the big numbers are coming into play.
Well, let me defend the former president, if I may. I grew up in New York, real estate magnates in New York and real estate folks in general, and this is not an indictment of all of them, but they play with numbers all day long. They play with real estate and so on and so forth. I would venture to say, and I'm just speculating here, I'm just saying that maybe 40, 50%, 60% of real estate folks in New York play with the numbers like he does. It's not out of the norm.
Well, I think you're making a good point and a fair point. However, again, the magnitude, for example, from what I've read, is that he said his apartment in New York was 30,000 square feet, and he wrote off 20,000 because he's a real estate tycoon. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he wrote it off, except for one thing. His apartment is 10,000 plus square feet. So he wrote off 20,000 square feet that doesn't exist on this planet. That is really the crux of this issue.
All I'm saying is I'm sure he's not the first real estate person in New York City to do something like that. About 30 seconds before we have your rant, Nikki Haley's still on the campaign trail. Right. She says she's going to stick around till Super Tuesday, right, which is early March. How do you see that?
I think it's a really good move on her part because you never know what's going to happen. She's a long shot right now, but I think she's thinking clearly. She can go through Super Tuesday, see how it plays out. You know, a day in politics is a long time, as you know.
True.
And this is, a while. Super Tuesday is March 5th. So she goes through this and then plays her cards.
Because you never know what may happen.
That's right.
All right. Time now for one of our regular segments, a commentary from Dr. Bart Rossi we call the Rossi Rant.
And Frank, today I'd like to go off on this pushback on women, okay? Because when I was watching Nikki Haley give her speech after New Hampshire, what I saw on the other side was a lot of laughter and jokes about her dress and how she looked. Well, she looked very attractive to me. She had a beautiful dress on. But it was an attack on a woman, basically. And then we have, of course, in Florida, the abortion law, 6 weeks. So women don't really know that they're pregnant, but the government is waiting for them 6 weeks in case they are pregnant and they can't really do what they want to do with their own bodies. And then, of course, we have what we discussed last week about banning books. Well, a lot of the authors are women, and women in the workplace is a very important issue. Diversity and inclusion. So my take on this whole thing is that we still today have a double standard. We're in a situation where, we think it's better for women, but it's really not any better. There's the double standard and it's there.
Very good points. All right, thank you, Doctor. All right, coming up, Governor Ron DeSantis is back in Florida and dealing with the state legislature on a couple of thorny issues when Power in Politics continues.
Discover excellence in video production with ITZ Media Group, the leading choice in Florida for corporate, commercial, documentary, and reality TV show marketing. We do more than make videos. We deliver cinematic experiences with reliable results. If you need a turnkey solution that elevates your brand, contact ITZ Media Group today at 239-573-1111 or visit us online at itzmediagroup.com.
Need a marketing agency to help you take care of business? Visit Quinzel.com. Our clients get more customers.
Welcome back to Power in Politics. I'm Frank Cipolla, joined by political psychologist Dr. Bart Rossi. Governor DeSantis is eyeballing but not exactly supporting a bill in the state legislature that would ban children under the age of 16 from setting up new social media accounts. When asked about the bill this week, the governor expressed some concerns about the possible legal ramifications. So we have talked about this, the governor returning from the campaign trail. A year ago, the governor would have jumped on this. Because he was poking at woke culture and social issues and cultural issues. Is this because he's concerned about the legal ramifications, or maybe he's repositioning himself as not the angry guy against woke culture, but more maybe moderating his stance?
Well, I'm thinking that he may be looking at himself and how he presents himself, as we discussed last week. Is he going to really make a change and modify his behavior, his attitude, and his personality and how he presents himself? And this may be an indication that he's really holding back. He doesn't want to be quite as harsh. I don't know. I think we'll see shortly, though.
We talked about him being a lame duck governor. Right. And beyond the lame duck governorship, there's a presidential race if he's so inclined to run in 2028. Does he start now, and does he have the ability to change? I guess that's what I'm asking.
I think we all have the ability to change. If you look at Ronald Reagan, again, the great communicator, he always wanted to change and modify and compromise with Tip O'Neill. If you look at Bill Clinton, he always wanted to get better and present himself in a better way. That's who he was. That's the kind of person. That's why he was the best retail politician of his day. But I think DeSantis has to learn a lot from this presidential campaign. And I think you're onto something here. Is he really going to make that change, or will he double down and still be very, very conservative, extreme in his views, and just go down that road?
It reminded me this week of the Ron DeSantis right after he won the first time. And someone asked me, what do you think of the new governor of Florida? And I said, he's been ruling so far as a moderate, and he was in the beginning. Right. And then when the chatter began about him being a possible presidential candidate, he swung all the way to the right.
Well, after he was elected now for the second time, right after he was elected the second time, he moved extremely to the right with the abortion law, with the gun law, with no permit, Florida permits or background check. Florida background check. And he looks like he's just really down that far right-wing mode. And is he going to come back from that and be more moderate? And we will know shortly that this is not going to take 3 years.
No.
We're going to know probably in the next couple of months if he's modified. Really.
All right. And Governor DeSantis has also reiterated this past week his willingness to send the Florida National Guard and the Florida State Guard to the southern border as Texas openly defies the U.S. Supreme Court. This is a puzzle to me, and I'll tell you why. Florida does not have a border with a Central American nation. So is this a political stunt?
Well, it's a political position, I would say, okay, more so than a stunt. And he feels he can't lose on this, Frank, because the immigration issue is so hot. People feel that this is something that needs to be addressed, and they're right. So he really can't lose by being tough on this. And I think that's, on this issue, he's pretty solid.
After he sent the plane of immigrants that went from Texas to Florida to Martha's Vineyard, and also, as I recall, sent a plane to Sacramento, California, that stopped. And I think he realized that maybe that was not the way to go. But he seems to be going down that road again in a different fashion. And I'm wondering if that's a winner. Maybe this is something he should leave alone.
Well, you might be right, because those were political stunts that he did. And I don't know if he really gained by those stunts. But right now, the immigration issue is hot, so he wants to be on top of that. And so he thinks he can look good by being pretty tough when it comes to immigration.
Can we touch briefly on what we discussed last week? A friend of mine contacted me, and he was at a DeSantis event, a local DeSantis event, and he said, Frank, I saw your show of last week, and exactly what you said is exactly what he saw with his own eyeballs, in that Governor DeSantis came to the event. He did not thank the folks who invited him. He did not acknowledge anybody in the audience. He was very curt. He left without really talking to anybody in the crowd, and he said it wasn't a big crowd. It was a crowd of maybe 50 people. He could have shook everybody's hand before he left. I'm wondering if he still has not got the message that he lacks those social campaign skills to pull off a campaign on a national scale.
Exactly. Ronald Reagan would not have done that. George W. Bush and Bush 41, they would never do that. They would engage and thank people and be gracious and present themselves.
But you're a psychologist, okay? What is the issue with not being able to even acknowledge the folks who have invited you there, which takes nothing. It takes a minute or less. I want to thank so-and-so for inviting, and the councilman's here, and the commissioner's there, and so on and so forth. It doesn't take much. It's a way of shining the light on them. Right. And most people know to do that when they're in a social situation, whether you're at a party, whatever the case may be. Why is it that he lacks that knowledge that that's a winner?
I think it's because he's very self-centered. And it's like we said last week, it's his way or the highway. So those kinds of individuals, they really go down that road of being the authoritarian personality, the guy that's in charge. I don't really have to do this. I don't have to reach out to anybody. I can do whatever I want to do to make it work for me. And I don't care that much about other people. Not a really good optic. Not good at all.
I get the sense that you'd like him on the couch one day so you can analyze him.
He can change. He can make a lot of modifications without being a different person. Mm-hmm. But it's a big decision, and he's going to have to show it pretty soon.
All right, thank you, Doctor. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the always popular sunshine or showers segment, when we see who enjoyed a day on the beach this week and who got drenched, when Power in Politics continues.
Experience an unforgettable Everglades adventure with Captain Jack's Total Everglades Combo Package. Begin with a thrilling airboat ride through twisting mangrove tunnels in Everglades City. Next, continue your airboat experience at Wooten's private 259-acre reserve. Get your adrenaline pumping as you glide through wide-open glades. Take a swamp buggy tour through grasslands, a cypress forest, and manatee pond. Learn about Everglades folklore and history as you try to spot wild alligators, birds, and other animals. Watch a live alligator show with a professional handler and hold your own baby alligator. See alligators, tigers, lions, otters, and other rescued animals in our sanctuary. Enjoy refreshments in our gift shop and take a piece of the Everglades home with you. Captain Jack's is fun for people of all ages and is open 365 days a year.
Welcome back to Power and Politics. As you know, the weather can change in a moment in Florida, so every week we span the great state to find out who enjoyed some warm sunshine and who got caught in a storm. It's time for our popular segment, Sunshine or Showers. And Dr. Rossi, we'll start with the sunshine. So sunshine is good. Who's in the sunshine this week?
Well, Frank, I have a very interesting person in the sunshine this week. He's 5 years old. Giovanni Malaludi. I think that's his last name pronounced correctly. But he's from Kissimmee, Florida. He has an IQ somewhere around Einstein's at 5. And at 2 years old, he was solving math problems. And his mother really couldn't get over what was going on. But I bring it up for a reason, because I think we ought to take a look at individual differences. Today, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, I don't know if we think about how different we really are. And a famous psychologist, Carl Jung, once said that we all have latent memory traces of our ancestral past. Mm-hmm. And he went off on that. Well, this is a shining example of that. Clearly, this was not an environmental factor that he had learned how to be this bright at this age. He didn't have enough time. So there's genetic factors that I think play in all of us, as well as environmental. And I think this highlights the fact that we have to look at individual differences and who people are based on these differences.
Well, he's bright and he has the sunshine, so the sunshine is bringing him brightness. Okay, you're going to ask me?
Yeah, who do you have?
All right, I have in the sunshine today Stacy Sauer. She lives in Cape Coral. She's been a teacher for 3 decades, and this comes from a report on the affiliate in Fort Myers, NBC2. She's been living in Cape Coral and teaching for 3 decades. Her sister passes away, and she uses this opportunity to say, you know what, maybe I don't want to teach anymore. And she reinvents herself. She takes a painting. She's opened up a painting store, and she also has put together in that painting store what they call a splatter room. You know what a splatter room is?
No, explain.
All right. See, last week you gave me something I didn't know. I'm giving you something you didn't know. Splatter room is for people who get together in this room and they spray paint on each other. So it's interesting. The place is called the Pineapple Picasso. That's the name of the business.
Oh, wow.
So Stephanie Sawyer is in the sunshine this week for me. Okay, showers.
Showers, Rudy Giuliani for me, because he's claiming that he's living off of Social Security, about $2,500 a month. Here's a guy that was America's mayor. He was a member of 12 different country clubs at one time. He was a star, and now he's not even recognizable. In my view, a terrible thing that he did in Georgia, criticizing poll workers for fraudulently counting votes and steering the election to Biden, and saying that they were passing cocaine between the two of them when it was really candy. And of course, he was convicted on that already. And he just shows something that's really very bad when it comes to people changing their demeanor and their behavior. He has moved really to the negative side, not even recognizable.
He is in the showers this week.
Very deep showers.
All
yes.
right, I have in the showers this week the Florida Chief Financial Officer. His name is Jimmy Patronis. Do you know Jimmy?
No, I don't know Jim.
All right, Jimmy was ordered by Governor Ron DeSantis to divest all the state's investments in the social and environmental causes, which is run by a company called BlackRock. And he did so. $2 billion pulled out of BlackRock because they do not want to be involved in these environmental and social issues. However, and this is why he's in the showers, Mr. Patronis had $75,000 of his own money in BlackRock investments, and he did not pull that out. So he's been complaining about it. Meanwhile, he kept the investment in BlackRock.
Called possibly hypocritical here.
Possibly. All right. All right, thank you, Doctor. Okay, it's time for a break. When we return, a commentary by yours truly titled, Let's Be Frank, when Power and Politics continues.
Need a marketing agency to help you take care of business? Visit Quinzel.com. Our clients get more customers.
Discover excellence in video production with ITZ Media Group, the leading choice in Florida for corporate, commercial, documentary, and reality TV show marketing. We do more than make videos. We deliver cinematic experiences with reliable results. If you need a turnkey solution that elevates your brand, contact ITZ Media Group today at 239-573-1111 or visit us online at itzmediagroup.com.
Welcome back to Power and Politics. Elections used to be easy. Sure, there have been bumps along the way. There was the razor-thin Nixon-Kennedy election of 1960, another close one between Nixon and Humphrey in 68, and of course Bush-Gore in 2000. But the recent and nonstop drumbeat that elections are no longer fair or somehow rigged has led to an alarming number in the drop of active voters in the Sunshine State, those who vote regularly. I read with dismay this week that the number of active voters in Florida has seen its biggest drop in years. There are now 1 million fewer active voters than there were last year at this same time, and across all parties, including those who identify as independents. We should all be concerned. Voting is the very core of how a democracy works. It is the essence of representative government. Now, it's easy to throw your hands up or believe your favorite commentator on one of those all-news cable stations, claiming your vote doesn't count or was never counted. In almost every election, half of those who vote will not like the outcome, whether it's a race for City Hall, the State House, or the White House. We must all act like adults and do what we have always done. First and foremost, vote. Second, vote for the person you want representing you. And finally, accept the results. Now, we can spend hours going down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, including the latest one, in which Democrats claim hundreds of party voters were purged from the voter rolls because those in power know Florida voters will reverse the state's 6-week abortion ban, which is on the ballot in November. Or we can lament the millions of tax dollars spent by the DeSantis administration to catch a couple of dozen Floridians who may have unknowingly voted illegally and then claim it's a major problem that could somehow sway an election. It's not, and it can't. Conspiracy theories are interesting things because when it comes to a conspiracy, anything is possible. And any claim to the contrary reinforces to the believer that the fix is in. We have just a few months to make sure we are all registered to vote in November. And the deadline is shorter still when it comes to the Florida presidential primary. The news is the number of active voters in the state is way down, and that is discouraging. But it doesn't have to be. We'll be right back.
Need a marketing agency to help you take care of business? Visit Quinzel.com. Our clients get more customers.
Getting the word out about your business takes marketing. And while any business person can place an ad online or elsewhere, being interviewed by your local TV or radio reporter or anchor instantly brands you the expert. Contacts Media was founded by an on-air news veteran of 40 years who worked in the nation's #1 media market. He and his team have the knowledge and contacts to get you booked locally and in other major markets. For more information, visit Contacts Media today at contactsmedia.com.
That's it for this week's edition of Power and Politics. On behalf of my co-host, political psychologist Dr. Bart Rossi, and all the fine folks working behind the scenes, thanks for joining us. As always, we'd like to know what you think. Visit us at powerandpolitics.tv or email us at info@powerandpolitics.tv. See you next time.